All right, hey team, Coach Mateo here from Marra Strength. Welcome back. Today I want to talk all about rep ranges. Sets of 8 to 12, is that how you get big? Is that how you build muscle? Sets of 5, is that how you get stronger? I want to just bust some myths for you, simplify it with my very fun analogy, and I want to help you understand how you can decide which rep ranges you should be training in. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Sets of 8 to 12, do they get you jacked? Yes, 100% if you train relatively close to failure. Here's the other cool thing. Sets of 5 also get you jacked if you train relatively close to failure. Sets of 5 also make you strong, and sets of 8 to 12 also make you stronger, but maybe a little bit less, okay? There's a little bit more circumstance that needs to happen in order for you to do it. Like I said, if the sets are taken relatively close to failure, sets of 5 or even 3, maybe even singles, all the way up to sets of 40 will stimulate muscle growth. Does that mean it's a good idea to do sets of 1 to get jacked? Probably not. But the way I like to think about it is this. Let's imagine your neighbor is living in a house next to you and you want to listen to some music. If you listen to music with headphones, there's no way your neighbor is going to hear that. But you're going to be able to enjoy the music just fine. Okay? If we think about that as an example as it relates here, that's like doing a set of 30 or 40. Yes, you're going to get more jacked, but no, you're probably not going to get a whole lot stronger. Meaning, yes, you're going to be able to enjoy the music, but your neighbor's not going to be able to fucking hear it. Okay? As the music gets louder and louder and louder and louder, all of a sudden, now you're starting to piss off your neighbor. And at a certain volume, you're not even going to be able to enjoy the fucking music anymore because your ears are going to be bleeding. There's going to be sirens outside because you got a fucking noise complaint because your neighbor called in and he's super pissed off. That would be like a set of 1. So yes, you are still hearing music, but you're probably not enjoying it as much as you can. Whoops. And somewhere, everywhere in between that spectrum, you're going to be able to enjoy the music to a certain degree, and your neighbor will be able to hear it to a certain degree, depending on how strong his hearing is. Okay, just a little caveat here before I dive into the nitty gritty. You are not going to get a lot stronger by lifting pencils. Strength adaptations are primarily driven by adding load or weight or intensity, weight to the bar. And you're not going to get very jacked doing easy sets. Like I said, the proximity or how close you are to failing a set is really, 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 really important when it comes to stimulating muscle growth, whether it's a set of 1 or it's a set of 40. I'll tell you about a really cool study just super quickly. They took a group of guys and they randomly assigned not just the people, they randomly assigned each individual leg of each person to a high load and a low load group. The high load group was doing like sets 5 near failure, and the low load group was doing like sets of 35 or 40 near failure. And they found no statistically significant difference in how much muscle they built. So if you want to build muscle, it's just about taking the sets relatively close to failure. Does that mean you should do sets of 40 to build muscle or sets of 1 to build muscle? No, probably not. Let's talk a little bit more about the circumstance here. So being close to failure, super important. 5s, 10s, 15s, 40s. No matter what rep range you're training in, if you want to build muscle, it needs to be relatively close to failure. But keep in mind what's practical. If you only want to do sets of 5 for some fucking reason, that's going to be very impractical for you to take everything relatively close to failure with sets of 5. It's going to be a fucking grind. You're only doing 5s near failure on squats, deadlifts, bench press, overhead press, lateral raises. What the fuck? Who does a set of 5 near failure on lateral raises? You're going to rip your goddamn arm off your body, right? And then sets of 35, 40, 50 maybe on squats. Are you kidding me? Not only is there just the fuck that impractical aspect of being in the gym for hours and doing fucking thousands of reps, but probably, this is something we'll talk a little bit more about in an upcoming video, doing a set of 35 on squats, you actually might get more tired in, let's say, your lower back or your shoulders just from holding that bar, or maybe even your heart rate, than your quads are the thing that are limiting you from continuing that set. And ultimately, if you're doing squats to grow new muscle, let's say in your quads, what we want is to challenge the quads, take them near failure. And if we can't do that because we're out of breath or our low back is so fucking pumped that it feels like, an alien is going to burst out of there, That's not a good thing, okay? So choose rep ranges that feel good for the exercises you pick. This is more the art than the science of training. Yes, I can get scientific about it, but like I said, lateral raise sets of 5, squat sets of 35, those don't make sense, okay? Some exercises lend themselves better to higher reps, some better to lower. Again, out of breath, other muscles limiting you, probably not the best case. Just don't be afraid to move things around and see what works. For example, when I do, oh my God, my back is so fucking pumped from this morning. Holy shit. Okay, when I do seated cable rows, when I do sets of 5 to 10, I just don't really feel that much. Yes, it feels heavy and hard, but like my biceps are just kind of like, my elbow is not super happy. But if I do sets of like 15 to 20, near the end of that set, it literally feels like my lat is going to rip off my torso. The tension, the burn, it feels like I'm so fucking meaty. I can just feel things like stretching. My back gets so pumped, so sore, unbelievable. Okay. And that just took me figuring that out one day. I was like, well, let's move it up because these don't really work for me. All right. So you can think about not just which exercises do I enjoy, but what rep ranges feel best for me. In general, bigger compound moves like squats, hip hinging like deadlifting, pressing, and pulling movements generally will probably be a little bit friendlier to the lower rep ranges like 5, 10, 12, maybe even 15. And generally, single joint exercises, meaning like curls, push downs, lateral raises, anything where it's just a single joint moving and not multiple, those are probably going to be best done in the 10 to 20 rep range, maybe even 15 to 25 rep range to really feel that kind of pump and burn. Okay. And then just if you want to get jacked, come back to the initial point of this video. It doesn't matter if you do sets of 8 to 12, those will work as long as you are relatively close to failure. How close? 0 to 4 reps left in the tank at the end of the set is probably a really good place to be. Okay. So it's not like when you're in the gym trying to build muscle and you do a set of 8 to 12, your body's like, oh, cool. We just inputted that cheat code where our arms lifted 12 times. Guess it's time to build muscle. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. And really what's important is the degree of tension and how close you are to failure that really stimulates muscle growth due to fiber recruitment, satellite cell activation, mechanical tension, all kinds of this other crazy shit like cell swelling that really are the drivers of growth. Not how many times you lift your arm, but the really important things, okay? If you're new to this type of training, try just sticking to like 2, 3, 4 reps in reserve, meaning you get to the end of the set and you're like, I could only do like 2, 3, 4 more if I had to. Rack the weight, put it down. You're going to stimulate a shit ton of muscle growth, especially if you're relatively new. You don't have to push all the way to 0 reps in reserve. All right, hopefully that helps and you can pick now some better rep ranges to train in. And if you like this kind of thing, you want to learn more about training for muscle growth and dieting for fat loss, getting in kick-ass shape, go ahead and subscribe and like this video. And if you have any questions about any of this type of stuff, I'm basically able to answer all my comments right now because the channel is relatively small. So go ahead, drop a comment below and I'll answer it as soon as I see it. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you in the next one where we'll talk a little bit more about the failure side of things. All right, thanks again.